Hey everybody, I'm back again with another video. This time I'm doing a review on my new 3D printer. Let's go! So the printer I'm going over today is the BIQU B1 printer. Now there are quite a few reasons why I went with this printer instead of other printers that I could have got, and here are just a few reasons why I went with it. This printer has a lot of upgrades. It has a 32-bit board. It's all metal construction. It's got an all-metal hot end. It's got a Type-C connector at the top, and it's got a really nice touchscreen. All of that made me go with this printer instead of a Ender 3.
Be advised, this is not a fully assembled kit. There is a little bit of assembly required. The bottom base is put together, but all of this bridge and everything else, and the hot end, everything else pretty much has to be put together. So it was a little bit more involved for my first printer than I really, I guess, wanted, but it wasn't that bad. I was able to do it in about an hour and a half. An experienced person who's built one before probably could have done it in 45 minutes, but I wanted to take my time and do it right.
So one of my favorite things about this printer is the touchscreen. It is bright, colorful, and really, really responsive. I really like it. It is so much easier to deal with, and I find it intuitive.
The knob pretty much is dead unless you go into the UI that basically utilizes it. Otherwise, you don't really use it. And why would you? You have the touchscreen.
Many weeks earlier. Alright. Not really showing how I'm building it. What I'm showing you is there's quite a bit of parts here. This is the body. A little smaller than I thought. You know, I get it that the build plate said, I don't know, like 220 or whatever, which connotates to like 8 inches or whatever. 8 or 9 inches, maybe 10. And then there's all the pieces. So this one is definitely not put together. It is motors and steppers and wheels and cables. And you know, it's funny because when I looked at the instructions or whatever and saw some videos on this, they said everything was labeled really well. Well, this one's labeled and these are labeled, but nothing else is really labeled on here. I know that this is the drive thing that goes to the hot end or feeds the hot end, and I know that those are stepper motors, but I hope the instructions are good. And I know that this little thing is the all thread that, wow, little daunting. Pretty close to an hour in. That's how far I've gotten so far. I'm on step 12. So there's still a lot of steps. It's kind of intuitive, but yet not. Some of the stuff is not, but I'm getting there. Alright, so I am printing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I was able to load the G-code off of the flash drive, which is actually a mini SD disk, and I am printing the Pokemon with the filament that they gave me. So I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna have to do trial and error, changing settings and learning all about what I need to do in order to make this thing work. So there's the printer printing a design that I made from scratch on Tinkercad. So I'm just doing a mock-up, a small mini version of something I designed in order to see, number one, how the printer will print it with supports, and number two, to see if there are any flaws in my design after I print it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing now. I really like this printer, the BIQU B1. Great printer. Very small, much smaller than I thought, but you know, it was a really good price, and it works really well, and it has like the ABL built in, so the automatic bed leveling BLTouch is built in, so that all you have to do is buy the BLTouch and then you put an extension on it. I haven't installed it yet, but I'm going to install that tomorrow. The only thing I don't like is that spool holder. Kind of puts a lot of tension on the machine and kind of rocks when it releases the tension. So I would say that's one of the first things I'm going to print after doing a couple of tests. I'm going to print a new spool holder because that thing kind of sucks. So I am designing a clamp to work with a 3/8 millimeter bolt to be able to grab certain fixtures and turn them in tight areas. Anyway, that's what I'm working on now. As you can see, I have a BLTouch on there. Be warned. BLTouches are not plug and play. BLTouches are nowhere near plug and play. Even on this unit here, the BIQU, the instructions that they showed on the video showed them basically wiring it up, plugging it in, and enabling it. That is not the case. There are Z offsets, X and Y offsets that have to be set up in order for the BLTouch to work correctly. I tried to do it without setting them up, and my print failed horribly. There are some good videos on there. I actually haven't done it yet. I watched some videos on it though, and you do have to go into the firmware of Marlin and write a little bit of code in order to get your Z offsets corrected. I tried doing it through the BIQU or BIQU touchscreen. Didn't work. Every time I would try to modify this offset, it would fail, it wouldn't save, and it would do the same thing. So I've decided I'm probably going to have to do it the old Marlin way, and if I want it to be done. But you know what, I'm finding that if I just level the bed by hand, it works great. And this Forma Future or Futura stuff out, and unfortunately the print failed. You know, I put my space heater on, tried to get it as warm in here as possible. I'm printing a pretty big print, but it definitely failed. Now I don't have an enclosure. It did recommend an enclosure, or actually said enclosure required on the thing, even though I saw a video where they said you don't need an enclosure. I'm printing it without an enclosure, and he did a huge print. But I'm pretty sure I probably should have used some glue stick or something to keep the print down, because it looks like it started to lift on the bottom really bad. So I'm assuming that it was my fault. Just kind of sucks because it was sitting here for probably hours. Failed. That's the brakes though. So I tried the glue stick for the first time, and that actually works. This material is very, very brittle. I was going for like a crystal-like look on my prints, so I got this material that was supposed to be like translucent and or like clear. Well, not really clear, but translucent, like almost like frosted glass. But of course, the first print I did snapped right off, and didn't want to stay because it started to peel up and warp. Then when I touched it and I put any kind of flex on it, it just exploded. Literally, like, just shot pieces everywhere. This was a good situation to try the glue stick because it was very temperamental and hard to stick to the surface. I tried it and it did work. It's a little messy, and taking this off is going to be a challenge probably, but it did complete the print, which it wouldn't do before. I also turned the temperature up because after the fact I just assumed PLA is PLA, but you got to read every single box for this stuff. And of course, this PLA requires you 200 minimum and up to 230. So I put 215. Seems to be hot enough. I probably could have went all the way to 230 with this stuff, and it would have been fine. Because I'm getting some stringing and stuff like that. But I'll snap, hopefully, some of those strings off, and it will be stable. That's the next thing I guess I got to do. So here's some of the things that I've figured out since having a 3D printer for a whole week. Big prints, very hard to do. I did this print like in my first 10 prints, and it would have worked out great, except for the fact that I didn't take into account that it curved here, and so it wasn't quite as much room as I needed. So when I designed it, I had thought, oh, that's going to look really good, but unfortunately that also took away some space. Plus, things ended up being a little bit tighter than I thought, and things have bezels and stuff like that. So I was trying to make a design for my RV to have a control center up on the wall, like that. And unfortunately, this print didn't work out. That's why I didn't knock off any of this support stuff, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to use this print. So then I went a little bit bigger and tried to take out the curves, but then it ended up being a really sharp print, and it also lifted from the bed a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, I didn't use any kind of adhesive for this. I don't think I even used supports, and I probably should have used some kind of glue or something, like a glue stick, because this is PLA plus, which I didn't know that every material has its own temperature range. It also has its own speed, fan speed, the sidewall, the millimeters, that height that you print at. There's tons of stuff in 3D printing that you have to tweak. That's why there's so many videos about it. Now the build volume on this printer is quite small. Here's my hand, and pretty much it's not much bigger all the way around. And you cannot use the entire space on here. It will allow you to print a certain amount because it has to allow for the head to get to the end. So really the build volume is more like in here. So that, I guess, would be a negative on this printer, but a lot of the 3D printers have a smaller build volume. This one is like about 8 inches all around, and then maybe a little bit taller. The exact in millimeters I could put on the screen, but a lot of the reason why I would say this is a great first printer is the ease of use. A lot of the stuff is set up. All the plugs are really,
proprietary and plug and play, so they don't fit any other way. I was able to have it going after the hour. I did my first print, and it was a slam dunk as far as printing is concerned. Okay, so this was my very first print. It was on the disc, and I would say that it's pretty good. There's slight little imperfections here and there, but overall, for my very first time, it came out pretty well. I subsequently printed other things. As you can see, there's some stuff I need to clean up here and there. It's kind of rough, especially when you're doing really complicated designs. It's not what you think. It's not going to do a perfectly smooth print. So here's some of the examples of things I've printed. As you can see, it's some chess pieces and a ring here and there. You can also create functional parts such as cover plates, switch boxes. I've done a lot of cool stuff in my road track where I've made custom display components. I've made little parts like this, which are just like little hook things. I've done bit holders so that I can hold bits inside there. So there's a lot of really cool stuff on Thingiverse that you can download, or you can design your own stuff. I'm not a professional at designing, but I do like to dabble in it. I've done things like the little smart wallets. These are pretty cool. You can pop out the wallets, hold money, are absolutely worth the money because they're becoming so much cheaper that they become affordable for the average person who doesn't want to spend $500, $600, $700 on a machine just to find out that they can't really use it. I think it was $350 or $60 on this. I've used it several times. I'm almost out of the black roll. Okay, so let's talk about the pros of this unit. It's all metal construction, a metal hot end, a great touchscreen, and it's a great value. The tech support is based in China. That is a con. The USB Type-C cable is proprietary and hard to get. But I would say that you should really consider buying this printer. It is a must-buy in my opinion. It's a great value, great construction, lots of upgraded stuff. I forgot to mention the 32-bit board, but that's another great reason to buy it. Anyway, that's my video. Thanks for watching. I'm going to get the tech out of here. Later.